Please stop marrying way older men. You'll be a hospice wife and die tragically taking care of them. Like, what the fuck? This is such a tragic story, and it is a perfect example of what Candace Kelly, shout out to her for the coining the hospice wife term. This woman was 30 years younger than him and died before him. Like so many women who caretake men do. I swear, she gave up her career, right? She was a pianist. She's an artist. And she did all that to take care of a loner with no friends who just wanted to paint and do stuff in New Mexico in the middle of nowhere and live his best life. They had so much money, but he didn't have any caretakers. And why the hell was she taking care of that man when they had that much money? I am telling y'all, do not take care of men, especially if they would never do the same for you. Statistics show men are 6 times more likely to leave us if we get sick, and yet we will stay to the very end and die taking care of these men. So I have so much to say about this story, and it's tragic that they both died. Okay, this isn't a hit piece on Gene Hackman, because I loved him as an actor. This is not a deep dive on him. I just want to show you some red flags in the information that I found online about that they've both said and the timelines and stuff like that. So many red flags are there. And this woman died mummified in her home, and her dog died too. And then he died. All that sacrifice for her to die before the man she was taking care of, who she could have lived another 30 years. Now, I know she died of the Hantavirus, which honestly, that was one of my biggest fears when I lived in New Mexico, because that shit is terrifying. Let me just go over some red flags, because I wanted to prove my point of men need women. We don't need men. And unless that man is making your life better and you are healthier being with him, and are growing in the best ways possible, not because he's teaching you hard lessons, surviving him, but literally you are glowing up in that relationship, you are slowly dying because men are parasites. It's like having a freaking tapeworm for so many women, and they're like, I don't understand why I feel like that I'm just not, I'm losing myself. It's literally like having a tapeworm. And then for so many women after 30 years of marriage are like, oh, the man was the tapeworm the whole time. Literally a parasite, just taking everything that I ate that was supposed to nurture me and took it all until I die or almost die. I swear. And even he could have been the most loving husband ever, but didn't have friends, had all these issues from childhood that he apparently never got over. I swear to God, men will their dad will abandon them, and then they'll never deal with that. And then a woman always deals with it. Whatever a man is not dealing with from his childhood, especially, you will deal with, and you will pay the price for that. Whatever his daddy issues, motivated so much of his life. God, let me just show y'all. Let me show you the things that he's said. And again, rest in peace, all 3 of them, okay? This is such a tragedy, but I want women to take the lesson from this. Continue. I'm Melanie Hamlet, journalist, storyteller, comedian, all kinds of things that don't make sense. Patreon is what's paying all my bills right now and keeps me making this content. So if you appreciate my work, thank the Patreon people or join my Patreon. I have lives, travel content, personal stories, because I value my privacy, especially now. And all kinds of stuff coming up. Watch parties soon. 2 lives this month, by the way. So go over there, check it out. Thank you so much, Patreon people. Wouldn't be here without you. Okay, so let's start off with a Guardian piece talking about this. His final days were marked by isolation, slowing down, and reclusive. Now, I'm going to go into a second why this man was so reclusive. It totally makes sense. I just want, it's not a lack of empathy for Gene Hackman. What I am saying is that don't be a sacrificial lamb for men in any way, because this woman died because she was with him. I mean, I'm not blaming it. I'm just saying because of patriarchy, women will sacrifice themselves, their art, their health, their life, their community, their friendships in order to what? Save men from themselves? Like, so it talks about how Betsy Arakawa, that's how I've learned you pronounce the name. If I'm doing it wrong, please tell me. She was his caregiver. As far as I've read, his only caregiver, which I find to be just a terrible decision. My dad died of Alzheimer's. I just want to start out of the gate saying that. And we literally had to have an intervention with my stepmother because it is so hard to caretake a man, especially one way taller than you and like weighs more than you, for a woman to be the, like these men cannot use the bathroom a lot of times. Like Alzheimer's is, caretaking a man in general is very hard, okay? But when he has Alzheimer's too, like we literally had to put this man in a home basically because I was afraid my stepmom was going to die before my dad because of how hard it is to caretake a man, especially when he weighs more, is way taller. I've had to try to pick up my dad when he fell when he had Alzheimer's, and I had to call the fire department. Don't call the police. Sorry, that was about like a cab. I had to get the fire department to come over and help get him up. Right? He fell when we were on vacation, and me and my friend Annie, it took two of us to pick him up, and we barely could. Okay, and we were both like, young and strong, right? No woman should be caretaking a man with Alzheimer's all by herself. And I've done so many videos about this. The statistics prove women or the people who caretake someone else have a very high percentage rate of dying, like higher than you would think, dying before that person they're taking care of, okay? And then especially if it's a woman, because that is so much work. We actually know a lot of times when men are trying to caretake a woman who's sick, unless they love the crap out of her, there's instances of them putting them in a car, and one man put her in a car with a seatbelt on and locked her in there because he didn't really want to deal with her, okay? So they had the money for help and they didn't get help. Don't know why, but maybe that was her stubborn pride, or maybe that was him, or whatever it was. That to me already is terrible. This man at 95 in that late stage of Alzheimer's should have had help or should have had caregivers. He became incapable of carrying out even the simplest of tasks. She ran the household errands, made sure he remained active, and protected him from illnesses. Okay, I'm assuming that was like, at 95 with Alzheimer's, he probably wasn't doing anything for a while. And from my understanding, since COVID started, they've been very isolated. It sounds like before then that she was doing what women do, which is, come on, make sure you eat healthy. Come on, just because look at this. She was doing everything. I'm going to get into that in a second, but I'm going to go through this first. He was very likely unaware that she had died at all, right? So she is alone in a house with this man and 3 dogs. And they had so few people in their life that she was like partially mummified by the time a utility worker saw something was wrong. That's how cut off they were from the world. So it indicates that he died about a week after his wife. Their decomposing bodies were discovered on the 26th. His last recorded heartbeat was the 18th of February. Okay, so that's like 8 days after he died. They were discovered by utility workers or whatever. She died before. Her body was there for so long. That poor dog starved to death. Sorry, I don't know why I said utility work, maintenance workers, whatever. The pills that they found near her body, unspecified thyroid medication, Tylenol, and the high blood pressure medication, but in addition to having the Hantavirus, which I'm going to just give you a little bit about that, but I'm not going to go into it much. But it is literally something that in New Mexico, in the desert region, but New Mexico is something that I was always afraid of whenever I saw mouse crap, because it was like, I don't want to die of Hanta. But I'm just saying she's probably taking a lot of medicine because it's very hard on your body to be someone's primary caregiver, okay? This is why I tell y'all, men will take years off of your life just by the stress of parenting a grown-ass man. Look at that. Mummification had started. And then their dog was dead in a crate in the closet. So with his death, just to give you an idea of how his health, why this man was alone with one person taking care of him with that much money. Again, it makes me so mad. They could have paid for help and they did not. It was all on her. Again, I don't know if that was her decision or his, but it was a bad one. But look at this. He had severe heart disease, including multiple surgical procedures involving the heart, evidence of prior heart attacks, and severe changes of the kidney due to chronic high blood pressure. The couple had increasingly withdrawn from public life since COVID started, and she had taken a lot of precautions to avoid exposing him to illness. How little did she know she's going to die before him. And this is what I mean. Women die taking care of other people. Women will be so focused on keeping a man alive with his diet and exercise, making sure he has friends, right? Meanwhile, they will neglect their own health. I know she died of Hantavirus, but I promise you she would have been much healthier if she hadn't been the primary caretaker of a man with Alzheimer, like 6 foot something. So the sheriff's office said there's no evidence that anybody had been taking care of him other than her. And like, there's a whole thing about how, once he was in Santa Fe, he was involved in the community, and like he was, but he's been there for a long time. And like so many men just started, isolating more and more until he basically really didn't do much. And anything he did do, it was because his wife made him do it. Now, I'm going to go into how they met a little bit later in terms of where she was at and where he was at. But there's a 30-year age gap. Now, I've made plenty of videos about this in the past, but in general, this makes no sense to me. Women have way more energy than men. I do not know, like, women run circles around men. And I've told y'all before, I dated a dude when I was, 40, who was like 8 years younger than me, and maybe even 9, I don't know, whatever. I called him Grandpa. Okay, now I know I have more energy than the average person, but every woman I know runs circles around men in terms of what they do, what they feel like they have to do. Like they work. Right? Or at least if the men do have as much energy, unless they're really working on themselves, all that energy is used to like punish themselves, to push themselves, right? To, build character through torturing themselves through some sport or whatever. But when women tend to do that, it is usually to take care of people, right? But to me, age gaps never make sense because we also know that baby gravy isn't really, it causes a lot of women's problems when they try to give like this nasty aged old ass baby gravy is severely impacting women's pregnancies, but we don't talk about that. So to me, it makes no sense in terms of energy, like compatibility. Like to me, it makes more sense for a woman to date her age or even a few years younger than to date older, because so many men are just like grandpas, even at the age of 30 in terms of their mentality. And they like, whatever. This isn't about age gaps, but just parentheses. This is why I say you're going to be a hospice wife, because they're not taking care of themselves. They already just like don't want to do anything unless it's like some sport that's bad for them or some escapism. And women are just, we never rest. I swear to God, if there's anything women don't know how to do, it's rest. And if there's something that men know how to do too much, it's rest. And the ones who don't know how to rest, it's usually like torture themselves somehow. Because they won't deal with their stuff. Now, there's so many points to make about this video, but after COVID, or since COVID, he has been more reclusive, trying to protect his immune system and everything else. And that makes sense, right? So part of it is a failure of society to care about people who are chronically ill with disabilities, really just care about other people because of this refusal to like be more responsible, right? We saw that during when the pandemic, the whole anti-mask movement, the anti-vax movement, whatever, so a lot of people have been very isolated for a while. So that speaks to that. And obviously that's not fair, right? Well, this to me is about like, I get why he was isolating. She was very careful when she went into public. And at the same time, this woman, because she's attached to this man and his caretaker, she went down with the ship. Okay? Like, I hate that. He was essentially homebound in recent years. He even stopped riding his bike through the neighborhood. Betsy tried to keep him, this is from friends of theirs, tried to keep him kind of active and engaged. And helped him try to do puzzles and do yoga through Zoom at least. She was still trying to keep him active and engaged and as healthy as possible, like so many women. Come on out. Go play with your friends. Please go make some friends. Please go do something, right? It's like men tend to do one extreme. They either will have no friends at all and rely entirely on women for everything, especially their social life, or they'll have They'll just be gone all the time with their friends, hunting and, climbing or playing games or like whatever hobby it is that they have. And yet those men will never show up and take care of their friends because their relationship is built on like escapism and fun and like male bonding, but it's not at all based on intimacy, vulnerability, and taking care of each other. So even when they do have friends, it's like most of the women that I hear complain, it's either their husbands are always freaking gone, doing their thing, hanging with the boy, golf. They have golf widows. They have like fill in the blank widows for so many hobbies because men will just be like, I just want to I don't want to parent my kids. I don't want to be around you. I just want to come home and fork you and have food and laundry done. Right? But I don't really want to hang out with you. So there's that extreme. Then there's the other extreme of like men won't do anything and women are like, okay, I'm going to schedule you to go hang out with Timmy on this day so you get the fork out of this house. Right? But these two extremes seem to be where a lot of women are at. The men either have no life or too much of a life that like they just don't ever want to be around their partners other than to extract free labor. Sounds like Gene Hackman was kind of the opposite. Now again, he had reasons for not trusting people. He had stalkers. I'm going to mention that in a minute. So I have empathy for everyone involved here. But I'm saying the point of this video, if you get nothing else from it, is patriarchy conditional. The conditioning under patriarchy will have men exploit you to the day you die, even if you die first, taking care of them. And it'll have women being sacrificial lambs, self-sacrifice, self-abandonment to save a man, to help a man, to parent a grown-ass man. And then we have society and power structures and everything else playing into that too. Please do not die taking care of a man. I know the Hantavirus is what took her out, but she would have never been in that situation had she not self-abandoned at every turn to take care of this man. I'm not saying she didn't love him, but I'm saying if your love is based on self-abandonment, is it love though? Unless he's your literal child. Is that love? Maybe that's codependency. Patriarchal conditioning. Now, this is a man who, once he retired, he was done. He wanted nothing to do with Hollywood, and I commend that. But he also lost some of his whole family, his marriage, and relationship with his children because his ambition and more importantly, his ego and his daddy issue drove him to the point of losing his family because of Hollywood. Now, also, as someone who worked in the film industry, okay, and I understand that world really well, it is a world in which it is hard to not become a part of the machine. And everyone I know, crew members too, literally never see their families. It's a very hard industry to be in. But with crew, people don't make what actors make. So he could have afforded to not make that many films. He could have afforded to spend more time with his children, and he chose not to. And he even admitted that because his ego got ahead of himself. So I'm glad he finally decided, I'm done with Hollywood. But he ended up, becoming kind of a loner in New Mexico. And his wife, she had to do a lot of self-abandoning to be with him. Their privacy, much valued in Santa Fe, may ultimately have contributed to their tragic death. Look at this. So she was often alongside him. There was much about his life that she managed. Okay, now remember, where's the book? Hold on. To quote one of my favorite books I've read this year, Emotional Labor by Rose Hackman, she talks about how women are trained to be a man manager. Here it is. She managed this man. She set up his golf games and his friends. She policed his diet. Given the heart trouble that that had dogged him for decades, she diluted his wine with soda water. She typed and edited the novels he wrote by hand. More on that in a minute. She's doing all this stuff. Y'all know I've been talking about this. When I was working craft services and all these men who would come to my table and eat donuts and all this junk food and literally say, don't tell my wife. Because they got a man manager at home trying to make this man live longer, trying to make sure that he doesn't eat like a child, right? And then he goes to work and is like, blah, 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 don't tell my wife, blah, 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 right? This woman was managing this man, setting up play dates. Y'all remember Dog Park on Saturday Night Live? Yeah, Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair credited that skit to my article, Men Have No Friends and Women Bear the Burden. That my article inspired that skit. Thank you, Vanity Fair, for giving me credit for that. But that's exactly what this is. She's like, okay, let's see, you're going to go hang out with your friend here. I don't ever want to manage a man like that. Oh my God. Ugh. And then again, she took on, why not be his sole caregiver? In addition to all that, she's already doing everything. Why not do one of the most physically, mentally, and emotionally difficult jobs you could possibly do for free? Like, y'all could have paid somebody. They could have paid somebody. So whatever, this is just self-sacrifice, self-abandonment at every turn. Maybe this was an abusive marriage. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that. All I'm saying is don't be this person. She died self-sacrificing and self-abandoning. The irony of this woman dying before him, and then him dying immediately after because she's not there to help him. So I just wanted to, sometimes I get a little excited when I'm doing this. She's a sole caregiver as he endured the devastating effects of Alzheimer's. 30 years his junior, she must have planned to see him to his end in their home. Yeah, and that's the thing. Women, and I am telling you, and like I said in that Harper's Bazaar article, a lot of women are waiting for their husbands to die so they can just go live their best life. They don't want to abandon their husbands at the end. They don't want to, they've already been so long together. They're going to see it out to the end, and then they're going to go on a cruise and hang out with all their single women friends and live their best life another 10, 20, 30 years. This is a cautionary tale if that's your plan. This is why the gray divorces are on the rise. It's because a lot of times these men just get worse with age, are hard to take care of because they're terrible patients. They won't do it. They won't take the medicine they're supposed to. They are resentful at the very people helping them. Like, the more you do for them, the less grateful they are, And then on top of all that, a lot of times they literally become abusive. On top of all that. So if this is your plan, if you're with a man, you've been with him for 20, 30 years, and you're like, I'm just going to see it out to the end, think again, maybe. Think again. This is life and death, y'all. That's why I talk about it so much. Look at this very telling language right here. But it was her, the caregiver, lover, protector. I am so tired of men being called the protector. Y'all, again, protectors of what? Their ego, their finances, their predatory friends, their reputation. And providers of what? Sometimes money, but mostly stress, trauma, and unpaid emotional, domestic, sexual, and mental labor. Providers of autoimmune diseases and health issues, and providers of what? An early death. So men are not protectors and providers in general. They love to claim they are, but look at this. She's his protector. And how many women can you think of right now that you would actually think they are the protector in their relationship? Now, how many men would you think of are actually literally the protector when you frame it as a labor issue? This is all a labor issue. Oh my God, look, he's running in his sleep. I also just want to point out the way this is phrased, how even in an article written just this week, the timeline presented that Friday raises the terrifying possibility that Mr. Hackman, a Marine veteran and actor of consummate precision and control, had spent days in the presence of his fallen wife, too disoriented and feeble to call for help, trapped essentially in the handsome secluded home that had been his reward for life toiling in the limelight. Oh, what a terrifying possibility that this old man was in the same house with a dead body of a woman who died taking care of him. I just want to point out how little we value women's lives, that this is the terrifying thing for them. Not that this woman died before him. Not that their poor dog died in the closet, in a crate, because he'd been taken she brought him home from the vet. Well, I'm sure she was caretaking the 3 dogs too, in addition to the property and a 95-year-old man with Alzheimer. It is weird to think of him just wandering around the house with a dead dog and a dead wife that he didn't notice. But just the framing of this. This is the most tragic part, is he was alone with these dead people, the dead dog and dead wife. and didn't even know it. You know what? I'm glad he didn't know it. He doesn't, he probably died happy, you know? Like, again, I'm just, as my dad has Alzheimer's. That's the most peaceful time of his life. I mean, it was very frustrating for him too. I'm not saying Alzheimer's is a terrible, terrible, terrible disease. But I swear, some of the stuff that haunted him his whole life finally disappeared because he couldn't remember it anymore. I think it was almost a gift to take away the memories of what he had endured in his family. And then probably what he had then repeated the cycle of violence with his family because he never dealt with it, right? So this man was just unaware. But the terrifying thing of this whole story is that this poor man was just wandering around in the house with these people dead. Do you understand how that framing, I find that so infuriating. Wait, I also didn't read anything about her family. I find the nightmare is that she was pretty much cut off from everyone in her life, alone in a house with a man who didn't even know who she was, and that she died 30 years before she should have. I find the part of the dog starving to death in the closet to being the part of this horror story that's way more terrifying than a man not even knowing the situation. To me, that's a gift that he didn't know what was happening. Am I getting this across? How this is so infuriating. That is the most terrifying part of this story for this person. Now, every single article that I saw about him mentioned that his dad abandoned him at 13. Aww. I'm not saying that is not devastating. This man sounds, and his mom, the way his mother died. I'm just saying that, oh my God. The trauma of men leaving their families, abandoning their families is real. And men seem to not deal with it and then do the exact same thing. Now, he didn't leave his family, but he admits he basically was never there and he would not turn down roles. And that, like, he basically, wasn't very close to his children, right? Because, I mean, sorry, but like, if you're gone all the time because you're centering your career and your ambition, as all of the freaking papers are saying, that ambition is what broke up their marriage. Okay, not patriarchal conditioning and ego and all that stuff. No, his ambition. Well, you know who else was ambitious? Dictators. Like, God. You could say selfishness. You could say that. Deadbeat dadness. You could say that. Deadbeat in terms of, yeah, he worked very hard. But he neglected 3 children he brought into the world because he didn't have to work as much. And then every interview, and I saw an interview of him talking about it, and it looks like this man had so much pain from that. I can't imagine. His dad just waved at him at 13, waved goodbye, didn't say goodbye to him. That's real trauma. But how many of us have been abandoned by our dads? For another woman, like, you know, how many of us have all kinds of abuse, physical, schmexual, all kinds of abuse from our fathers, and deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, the way that men punish women for what their dads do, and then those men go on to do the same version of that somehow, in terms, they may not have waved goodbye to his kids, but every time he took a new job for 4 months and didn't see them, it's still like hurts. Like, okay, you're gonna choose work over us again. Okay. Like, they will not break the cycle. And if I swear to God, if men would just look at patriarchy and their conditioning under patriarchy and how much harm they cause and how much is caused to them from other men and women who are centering men and won't deal with our patriarchy, right? But now, before I get into some of their backstory, this article also said that, you know, that she had always served as a gatekeeper for him. Over a 20-year friendship with Mr. Hackman, his friend said that he never recalled speaking to him on the phone or emailing with him. He would always set up golf games or visits through his wife, okay? Uninterested in technology, Mr. Hackman did not have a cell phone that his friend knew about. Oh, sounds like Christopher Nolan. Wow, I just love it that men just get to opt out of technology, just get to opt out of not having to stay in. Let's just have her do it. Oh, I want to write a book, but I'll just let you type the whole thing. Like, I swear, stop doing, like, men who just don't want to deal with technology. Like, look at y'all. Your 20-year friend, you never spoke to him on the phone. I swear to God, women would never expect a man to do all that for us. And yet men are like, yeah, she gate kept him. Or you could frame it as he didn't want to do it. She was very protective of him. Yeah, I get it. He also was stalked. I get some of the reasons why this man was like he is. I'm just saying, I want us to reframe this. Mr. Hackman seemed happy to have his wife run things. Oh, I bet. I would love to have a wife. Wouldn't you? Who wouldn't love to have a wife who does everything? Except for the fact that it makes you lazy and entitled and become a baby. And then also want to fork her and everything too. Like, I swear to God, the way men are made. Oh, God. You recall Mr. Hackman saying he would have been dead long ago without his wife. Yeah, I bet. Most men would be. Oh, let me read the rest of it, though. He'd be dead long ago without his wife taking care of him and ensuring that he ate healthy. I am so tired of men refusing to eat healthy. Oh, God, this is why they need us, okay? This is another reason why they baby trap women. That's why they want us to have babies, is because they're not worried about the birth rate. They're worried about men not having women to take care of them, because I am telling you, they make it very hard for single moms to exist. They make it very hard the laws make it hard for, I have a friend who has, a sperm donor and is an intentional single mom. And the way that the government made it so hard for her to do that here. Okay? They don't care about the birth rate. They just want women taking care of men. And men will never take care of themselves. As long as we're taking care of them, why would they? His friend literally recalls seeing her mix soda water into his wine. She just really looked after him. That looks to me like codependency. That looks to me like a woman with a child. Okay? That is not looking after. That is caretaking. That is parenting. I do not want to be anybody's mother. A child free by choice. In this story that was supposed to be cute and revealing is like, what? You could sense that Mr. Hackman was declining. The couple had a tradition where Mr. Hackman would cook dinner each year for her birthday. Oh, wow. Once a year he cooks dinner for her. And in 2023, she came home expecting that one meal that he's willing to cook. And he'd forgotten the ritual. Instead of that saying a lot about their marriage, it's like, wow, that shows that he was really forgetful the one time he had to do some labor. Now, like a lot of older Americans, he had retreated indoors during the COVID crisis to stay safe. Or like a lot of disabled and chronically ill Americans and people around the world. Okay, so this is like speaks to a much bigger issue. People in their community had seen no sign of the couple except for their trash cans on the side of the road. So on February 9th, she picked her dog up. That's why the dog was in a crate. Okay, this poor dog has been to the vets, and then she died. And then all three of them died because she died. All three of them are dead because she took care of everyone but herself. I know it was the Hantavirus, but I'm just telling you, I'm guessing that her body was probably very exhausted from doing all of this, okay? And that's why I'm saying, the Hantavirus may have taken her life, but you don't think taking care of a grown man, especially with Alzheimer's, impacted her health and maybe made her more susceptible and maybe made her not pay attention to symptoms, right? Because this doesn't come like that. There's symptoms. She probably is so stressed out. And I'm telling you, it is so stressful to take care of somebody with Alzheimer's. Literally had to do an intervention to try to save the life of my stepmom because she was doing so much to take care of a man and she didn't want to abandon him and didn't want to put him in a home because it felt wrong. And I understand that sentiment. The irony is that he got way better once he got into a home. And thank God he had the kind of insurance for that kind of stuff, but only for 5 years. We were like, oh, I hope he doesn't last too long because you have no idea how to pay for this. Like, it's the American healthcare, oh God, it makes, whatever, another video. So it's not just me. Someone who lived in their neighborhood thought it was really unusual that they did not have any caretakers. Given his age, this guy was like, when my dad was 95, we had a live-in cook and maid for him. And that's like for someone old, not even with someone with Alzheimer's. Do you know how exhausting it is to have the same conversation with someone all day? Answer the same. Luckily I have an improv background at the UCB in New York. So I started to make it interesting because I was like, I can't say over and over again the same thing. So I just started getting really creative with my answers to the same question every 2 minutes, right? It is a lot. It is so hard to caretake someone with Alzheimer's. It is so hard. And I even haven't been the full-time live-in caretaker. Okay, I haven't even experienced that. It is a lot of work. And caretakers who are paid, they don't get paid enough. They do not get paid enough. And it's usually women doing it, of course. And it's also usually with the least privilege who are in those roles as well, getting grossly underpaid. Why did they not have somebody helping her? Well, Bruce Willis has a young wife, all those daughters, and an ex-wife, all of them taking care of him. And even his wife is like, it's too much, I can't handle it. With all that help and all that money. This also is not his first wife to die before him. His first wife died in 2017. I don't know of what, but she was married to him for 30 years, raised all of his children, mostly without him. She's gone too. I'm not saying that's his fault. I am saying that men take years off of your life, especially if you have children with them and they do not help parent those children, right? And yet you're still with them. I swear, with single moms, I was raised by a single mom. I cannot tell you how much, like, having 3 children instead of 4 was probably less, would have been less work for her. I do not know. I would not be the woman I am today if my dad had been in that house with us, after he had an affair and left. I would not be the woman I am, because I would have watched a woman self-sacrifice at every turn and see a man being a bigger baby than the literal children in his home. Right? It is exhausting for women to parent men in addition to their children. Now, after 30 years with one woman, he went immediately into a relationship with another woman. They dated for 7 years. They were dating before he was divorced, although they were separated. So I'm not saying there was an affair happening, but this man seems to have never been alone. Maybe when he was in the Marines and he was like, in the beginning of it. But as soon as he met a woman, it's like, wow, this is great. I have a woman to do everything for me. 30 years with her, and then immediately on to the next woman who would take care of every area of his life. Now, it sounds like the man was a very hard worker, but men will do all that at work and then do nothing at home. Right? I mean, it seems like he did some skiing and little vacations. It's not like he never saw his kids, but he admitted himself he was pretty much never there. And again, if he had actually been there more, my guess is that they would have probably been more involved in his life in Santa Fe. I don't know. I don't know these people, y'all. I'm literally just using examples to show how we are conditioned and the media talks about things versus the reality. Okay? I could be so wrong about all this, so please don't think that you find one detail that I'm off and be like, all your points are wrong. I don't know these people. Okay? I don't know these people. That's why whenever you see all these photos with famous men and their kids, what's that Barry, what's his butt? That Irish guy in Saltburn who forked the dirt or whatever, the grave. That I get it still happens. You'll see men with pictures with their kids. Oh, they're loving dad. What's the Nirvana drummer guy? Oh, girl dad. Oh, great dad. What a dad. Oh, dad. Social capital. That's what that's about. Just because there's photo ops doesn't mean those dads are present at all. I'm not saying that he didn't love his kids. I am just saying that men who have abandonment issues from one of their parents or some from childhood, and they do not deal with it and don't deal with patriarchy and that entitlement and all those ideas around masculinity that tell them that money is the only thing that they are valued for, and that all this other stuff is a woman's stuff and worthless, that conditioning will ruin their life. I mean, they'll have an easy life, but it'll ruin their opportunity to truly love and feel love because they will not They will not question this way of thinking and all of that free labor they get from it. It is not good for y'all either. You get to control the world, you get to dominate, you get to have all the power, but you die inside. Same thing with whiteness too. White people who don't deconstruct, if we don't deal with this white supremacy crap that we're taught from an early age, it's a death. It's like death of the soul. It is, or never even being alive, because it cuts us off from our humanity and our empathy. Okay, just so everything I'm saying about patriarchy, you can pretty much say the same thing in just different details about white supremacy culture and all the other isms. It is dehumanizing to everyone involved. It's just that the people who are the victims of it get smashed and die because of it. And the people who are powerful because of these systems get all this stuff, but feel dead. Now I want to talk about how, when he was talking about this story about his dad. And again, this is very tragic, okay? Well, you can't listen to this man talk. And again, if you watch the interviews of him talking about it, he literally still chokes up. Even, I don't know how old he was. He was maybe like in his 60s talking about it and still chokes up at this. And I really wish men, all that pain you feel from daddy abandoning you or mommy abandoning you or whatever it is that happened to you in your childhood, all that pain, I want you to sit with that and do something to break the cycle, right? Because kids who grow into be adults with way more trauma, especially women, will be expected to function and just get over it, where a man will literally bring up that I'm sorry to keep bringing up my dad. My dad, until the day he died or until he got Alzheimer's and forgot that his dad hated him. That man cried every opportunity he got. Anytime he started drinking, if I stayed up and listened to him, it was almost a script that he read. He would always hit that point. My dad never said he loved me. And he'd start crying. This man never stopped crying about his dad not loving him. And I don't know what else his dad did to him, but I know he was abusive towards my grandma. So he sounds like he was a terrifying man. Okay, my dad never got over that trauma. My dad did a lot to break some cycles, but he never broke the patriarchy cycle, and we suffered because of it. And then he had the audacity to cry to me about how his dad was so awful, and I'm like, okay. And then until I realized I didn't have to listen to it, I sat there and was like, poor guy, right? Deal with your stuff, men, or you will become the dads that you forking hate so much and blame for all your problems. And then also they end up blaming their moms for what their dads do too. But that's another topic. And his dad left at 13. A lot of us, our dads left long before that. And for our entire childhood, we're like, why don't they love me? Why did they leave? Although staying and not loving your kid is just as harmful. Because the kid knows there's something wrong. They don't love you enough. The kid knows. They just don't know why. He attributes that one gesture of why he became an actor. That one gesture of dad being like, you're on your own, kid. Bye, as he waved driving by. It's reported that his mother clearly had some problems too. She died in 1962 before he was a big hit. And I really think his issues with his mom and dad is one of the things that drove him. So many men are just so driven, not just men, but a lot of times men, there's a revenge of the nerds fantasy. If it was being bullied in school or, to get back and prove something to your parents, which is very relatable. We all want our parents to be proud of us, right? We may not admit that out loud, but at the end of the day, we all just want our parents to be proud of us, right? But this seems to be a very driving fact that his parents, more on that later. She died, that she was drinking and passed out in bed with a lit cigarette, starting a fire. This woman burned to death. So maybe she was an alcoholic. I'm not sure, but this is a traumatizing way to die. And as this being, the son of her, I'm sure this was a very, very hard thing. But it's weird to me that he never talked about this, but he talked about his dad waving goodbye constantly. I don't know, maybe he did talk about this, but most people say that he didn't really talk about this much. In interviews for GQ and other things, when he's out in Santa Fe, he's he splits his time painting and writing. But again, why is his wife doing all that? Why didn't he pay someone to do that, right? His wife basically wrote all those books. More on that in a second. He had a reputation for being a brawler. I didn't know that. And being angry. You know, they were like, are you still an angry young man? Ever. I don't know. This isn't about all that. I'm just saying. There's a lot to the story I don't know. But apparently he used to fight. He got in a traffic accident and like tried to punch the guy, whatever. And it seems like his mom was like, oh, I could see you being in the movies one day. And he's like, yeah, that probably led to... I'm telling you so much of what we do, but especially men who won't go to therapy and wonder, why am I doing this? Right? A lot of it is stuff that they could have worked out in therapy. But it sounds like he had issues with his mom, too. He's much closer to his grandma. And like, women have always worked, okay? Women have always worked. This whole trad wife thing is a lie. And it's also deeply rooted in racism, especially anti-blackness, but that's another video. Because literally black women were not allowed to be stay-at-home mom in certain parts of the country. Anyway, so his grandma basically raised him because his mom and dad were both working. Dustin Hoffman apparently said that, you know, because they were buddies, they both were kind of like rejects from their theater school in Pasadena, their Pasadena theater, whatever. Anyway, they have a long history. He's like, yeah, he loves to get in fights. He's like, well, he embellishes, but whatever. Anyway, the guy had a temper. Doesn't mean he ever took that out on any women. But, you know, I'm just saying that men who are like, have unresolved daddy issues and a lot of anger. My dad never like physically hurt me or my sister, but his words, the man could be so freaking mean. He had so much anger about his dad that he never dealt with. That's why I'm saying, men, do not be with men who will not deal with their past and patriarchy. Both of those things. You will pay a price. Now, I want to go into Betsy's story just a little bit. She was a musical prodigy, okay? Prodigy. That's different than just being good at prodigy, okay? She was performing at age 11, you know, doing all this. She was a part of the Honolulu Symphony Orchestra. She was also a cheerleader at one point. Anyway, she met him when she was working at a gym, part-time at the fitness center, in the 80s. They dated for 7 years, okay? And again, they were dating while he was still married, separated, I think. I don't know if there was cheating. He is running again. He's dreaming. No, he's not. Every time I talk about him, he wakes up, I swear. But look at this. After they married, she stopped performing in concert. I hated reading this. She basically became like a socialite and everything became about him. But she stopped performing. She was a prodigy who stopped performing as soon as they got married. 7 years, again, you know, if they were dating for 7 years because she wasn't ready to get married, that's different. But, you know what Cecilia Regina talks about, dating forever. Also, just really quick, just Google the Hantavirus. It has a fatality rate of between 30 to 60%. The death can usually occur suddenly, like as it did with her. And, you know, even if you recover, it takes a long time to recover. This is, to me, it almost sounds like a COVID kind of death. It like your lungs get all messed up. Like, look at this. Ugh. Anyway, but you will not convince me that she would have had a much higher rate of recovery or surviving this very kind of freakish disease or whatever if she had not been doing everything, parenting this man. So they dated for 7 years. He got divorced in 86. He married his new wife in 91, so that's like 5-ish years, right? They dated for 7. This man cannot be alone. Men who cannot be alone means they cannot take care of themselves. And he was also a loner, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. He supported the Democrats, but he loved Reagan. It's like, oh, God. Reagan is one of the reasons why we are in this hellhole now. God. So, whatever. And, you know, there's so many articles out there like this, like Hollywood strained Gene Hackman's first marriage and relationship with children. Hollywood did. Are you going to say, he's just a passive victim. He's just a victim of Hollywood. Now, I will say Hollywood is a machine. And it is so brutal, and it abuses so many people. But the most privileged people in cishet white men in Hollywood, they are not getting abused on the level of all these other people. But then we're gonna blame Hollywood broke up his marriage. Okay, not his choices, not his ambition. Like, just look, Hollywood. Look what Hollywood did. They met in 1955 when he was only 25, right? So he was nowhere near success. And this is, again, you got to be careful, because a lot of men, their true character doesn't really come out until they get a little too much power and privilege or whatever, right? Like, a lot of men may seem like pretty normal guys, but if they haven't dealt with stuff, the minute they get a lot of power and celebrity and stuff like that, then it's like, oh, okay, They like didn't even have like hot water in their apartment. I'm curious how much she sacrificed for his career, but don't know. He admits that he confessed that and once he gained success, he became selfish. Shocker. You spend so many years wanting desperately to be recognized as having the talent, and then when you starting to get offered all these parts, it's very tough to turn anything down. Even though I had a family, I took jobs that would separate us for 3 or 4 months at a time. The temptation in that, the money, the recognition, that's ego. It was too much for the poor boy in me. I wasn't able to handle that. Et voila. Also, he admitted that one of the reasons why he's not close to his kids is he was gone all the time. So he didn't feel like he could really give them advice. Now I've only seen interviews talking about his son, which is very telling. But how he talks about having regretted, basically not being there to support and guide him when he needed it. And he said it'd be weird, basically hard for him to be gone all the time and then come home and start bossing him around. I don't know. I just haven't seen him talk about regretting not being there for his daughters all that much, but whatever. This is already too long. But just a little bit more on this background before I get to some of the very telling things that he's said about himself and his career. First of all, he lied about his age, I think at 16, to go be in the Marine. And, and honestly, my dad was in the military too, in Vietnam. But a lot of men do go into the military when like they have daddy issues. They need like some sort of like man bossing them around and telling them how to, what to do. Anyway, he was in the Pasadena Playhouse. And he was in it with Dustin Hoffman. They were believed unlikely to succeed by their classmates. Hackman received the lowest score of this playhouse that had ever been given. Determined to prove them wrong, he moved to New York City. That's where he shared an apartment with Dustin Hoffman and Robert Duvall. Like, imagine those 3 roommates. Oh my God. He worked all these jobs, but look, he was motivated by these rejections, using them as fuel to continue pursuing acting. Now, I don't disagree that you can be motivated by your rejections and stuff like that. But just look where we're at. I'm telling you, the revenge of the nerds fantasy is how we get the Elon Musks, okay? The revenge of the nerd, like no one anytime you see men who become successful because they want to get back at, like a lot of times, like what is that dude, the Nirvana bandmate, I forget from what I said. It was something like, he was rejected in high school and then he wanted to become famous to prove that woman wrong. Like, men will do all of this to prove somebody wrong and to prove a point. But if they don't deal with that pain, if they don't deal with whatever that thing was about, when they get the thing they want, it catches up with them. I don't understand. He won an Academy Award for Most Pleasant Actor? What? I'm not going to Google that, but what the hell is that? He's said that he wished he'd been around more for his kids. And in the way people frame it, due to the challenging film career, no, he admitted himself he didn't turn down roles enough because he didn't know how to say no because he was getting the money, the fame, the recognition finally. I can't tell you how important that is. The way they'll just be like, oh, Hollywood made me do it. Again, Hollywood is a brutal industry that exploits the crap out of everyone in it. And this man had enough money. He could have said no sometime. Even hated himself when he said yes to Superman. He felt like he kind of sold his soul. And then he kind of quit for a while because of that. Anyway, he says now that he's close to them. I mean, it doesn't seem like they were all that close at the end. Before his divorce was finalized, again, he was separated. He met another woman to take care of him and all of his domestic needs and emotional labor. Now, look at this stuff that the New York Times said about her. In his late years, he became a published author, writing 3 historical novels, and he attributed his writing style in part to her. Well, at least he gave her some credit. I need to do a whole video on all the men that the women were literally writing everything and the men are like famous, whatever. If in fact I have a style, it came from repeated edits, friends' suggestions, and my wife's unwavering specific read throughs. Mr. Hackman would write his books with pen and paper, and then she would type them up on a computer, making edits and sharing thoughts on the characters with him, basically being like, this doesn't work, you need to fix that. That's what their friend of 35 years, she's very involved in what he did. She made it very possible for him to do it. So again, another thing, he wouldn't be alive without her, he wouldn't be able to eat without her, he wouldn't have friends without her, and he wouldn't even have been able to write anything without her. I don't ever want to be needed that much by another human being, especially one that is not a literal child. Now again, so she grew up in Honolulu, and at 11, she's already doing all this, okay? She performed in front of thousands. I mean, look at her. Aww. And then she was in the Honolulu Symphony Orchestra. Now, I've never been in that world. One of my friends is a conductor, and two of my friends are conductors. And boy, this world sounds so hard and so competitive. So, you know, she had to be very talented and was literally called a prodigy. She also had a master's degree in liberal art. And when she met him, she was trying to make it as a classical musician. This is kind of the point of my story, among all these other things. As an artist, the only time I ever was, once I decided to fully commit to this, which I've been doing for over 20 years, I didn't date for most of my time as a writer and comedian and all that stuff. And that's the only reason why I haven't been derailed, is because I didn't date for most of that time. And the only time I dated somebody up until like got much healthier with relationships. That guy was abusive, the hobo, and I didn't write a single word. I moved back to Taos, New Mexico to write a book. Didn't write a single word the entire time. I was there almost a year. 10 months I was there. Didn't write a single word. Not a single word the entire time, because that man was so exhausting. This is what men do to artists. Hooking up with this man, linking up with him, killed her creative dreams. And she died 30 years. Maybe she wouldn't have lived to 95, but she's 30 years younger and died taking care of a man and never became this classical musician. I hate that. Now, when she was dating him, she gave concerts and stuff like that. But after they married, she largely stopped performing in public. I hate that. Not sure if he encouraged her to stop, not sure if he made her stop, or not sure if the exhaustion of taking care of a man and centering man just made her abandon that. I don't know why, but I hate it. Now, despite being married to a big-name actor, she kept her life private, avoided interviews, stayed off social media. And I think part of that probably had to do with her wants, but also this man had been stalked. So this is one last thing I want to go into. This is an interview done by a man, and you'll see how important that is in a minute. Back in 1989. There's several instances where he had been stalked. Look at this. Look at all these. I'm not going to go into all these. One of them that he had to move out of his Chicago apartment and into this hotel. Okay, so the man had every reason. I can understand why he wanted to live a quiet, private life in New Mexico. I get it. I can understand why she may have been very protective of his privacy, their privacy, and protective of him. Doesn't take away from any of the points I'm making. When talking about this film, this was his 50th film since 1961, and this was written in 1989, okay? His 19th film in 8 years at a murderous pace. So again, he's doing all this. He's doing so much. Sounds like he worked himself to death until he became withdrawn and distressed. People said there was a melancholy about him. It's like he finally got the thing he wanted, and then he hated the thing he wanted. And that's why, seriously, if you were ever like, I'll be happy when such and such happens, and that's how you live your life, that is just a setup, okay? That's a golden, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, whatever, golden ticket mentality. As soon as I get this one thing, I'll be happy. I'm telling you from personal experience, and just what I've seen and what I believe, it doesn't work that way. And then when this man is describing his middle age, this journalist, the whole thing is how he's this everyman, okay? I would agree he is an everyman. He's what's wrong with every man, more or less. Look, he said, now, however, his 30-year career marked by dips and breaks and life's attendant losses. So his friend, unalived himself. A marriage to ambition. He has both this is not marriage to ambition, okay? This is centering of ego, loving having being powerful and getting recognition and proving daddy wrong and making mommy proud. This is not ambition. As if it's ambition and not patriarchy, ego, unresolved childhood trauma, and refusal to deal with the entitlement of men and patriarchy. That's what that is. It's marriage to ambition. Again, here's this story again. And also, my dad sounds like his dad was a homosexual. My dad, deadbeat dad and homosexual, never made enough money to buy a house of our own or even rent one. We were living with my grandma, which is his mom's mom. Sounds like he's always been around strong, independent women, but codependent women. So, of course, he ended up with women who took care of him. Apparently, his grandma considered Gene's dad weak and told her, Hackman's mom, she was a talented girl and could paint and act and play the piano, and that she married beneath herself. It sounds like, just like his daddy, Gene married a woman who was an artist who didn't get to fulfill that dream because she was too busy taking care of him. Like, look at this. His mom could have been an artist and then didn't, married beneath her. Then they're like, oh, this poison, no doubt, didn't help the marriage. Okay, so it's grandma's fault. Okay, I'm gonna not use my microphone anymore because I just lost the whole second half of this film. So I gotta shoot it again. Oh my God. Oh, I'm so frustrated, y'all. All that work down the toilet. Anyway, I just want to point out here that men will literally blame anybody but themselves. Or instead of it being the dad decided to leave. Oh, it's the poison. Poor grandma. Grandma was in her ear being like, this guy's a deadbeat. Can't even pay for whatever. But it was grandma who poisoned, no doubt, and helped the marriage asunder. Like, what? Don't you be calling well, maybe grandma wouldn't have been in his ear if he had, not moved the family in with grandma. There's this whole scene of the original abandonment issue here. Then they're like, at 16, he's filled with the notion of adventurous and glorious death. Anyway, went into the Marine Corps as a method actor. When women are method actors, they don't terrorize the entire crew and their castmates. They just act. When men are method actors, I'm not saying that he did this, but most of the method actors who are men are awful. Like, what's that Jared, what's his face, who's sending, like, dead animals and stuff to his, like... So, 1977, he retired for the first time. Because he did all that, he was working so hard, not there for his family, didn't really, probably hated what he was doing. He actually talked about how he was, regretted signing up for Superman because he felt dead inside. That's what happens when you are, determined to do something and you think that thing's going to make you happy, and then you finally get it and you're like, I hate my life. Look at this. I did the poor boy thing. I was very determined to be successful. I had a number of houses and cars and airplanes. Bro, you owned airplanes and you couldn't afford a caregiver? It was like this empty barrel that doesn't have a bottom to it. And that's, again, why I'm telling you, men who will not deal with their crap and why they're so driven for this, that, or the other, they become a parasite to women because they either go into escapism, they, disappear into their jobs because if I just get this, then daddy will be proud of me, or mommy will be proud of me, and dad wouldn't have left. And it's never enough. This is what Elon Musk, with all his daddy issues, and his mom, who was like look what he's doing to us. Nothing is never enough with these nerds or these boys who become men who have a revenge fantasy and they have these deep wounds they won't deal with, and then the whole world has to deal with it, especially women and children. And anyone they have power over. So yeah, after Superman, he decided to quit. And look at this. So for 4 years, he lived in Monterey and indulged in himself, playing tennis, working on his impressionist oil paintings, blah, blah, blah. So 1977 until 1981. That's 4 years. Boop, 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 boop. Let's do some math now. His children. This is their age. So I subtracted their age from what year it is now to see when these people were born. Well, the first one was older when this happened. The second one was born in 1960. So that means they were 17 when he had this 4-year vacation to paint and find himself. But he regrets not being there for his kid. 1967 is when the youngest one was born. So that child would have been, 10 when he took this 4-year hiatus? I'm just saying, like, men will blame Hollywood for not being there. But he retired for 4 years while his kid was, if I'm doing the math here wrong, I'm just trying to make a point, y'all. They will literally blame anyone but themselves, right? Hollywood made me do this. Even though he says he was addicted to all this stuff. Even if they don't say, Hollywood made me do this. The journalists and the patriarchal framing by the media was like, look what Hollywood made him do. It made him abandon his family. It's not his fault. So then he came back in 1981 and started doing films again. And then, of course, his marriage ended finally. But even added, it's because you can become very selfish as an actor. I'd say as a man. Don't speak for all actors, buddy. He also was a loner. His friends said that. Even though he was, a friendly guy and seemed to like people, he was also very guarded, which again, could go right back to his abandonment issues. I'm telling you, so many men will... it goes back to this one thing. This one woman broke their heart and they're like, I hate all women. I'm going to torture all. Their daddy left them. And now they're just like, I can't be friends with men. They're going to abandon me. And I'll just say this, because of patriarchy, men are conditioned to value men more than women, even though they will use us to extract our labor and they do all this stuff, right? Because they need us, but they value men and their relationships and their opinions more than women. And they would rather die alone than take a risk of being vulnerable and being like, hey, what are you doing today? They're so even my own husband, who has a great relationship with his father, doesn't have any of these abandonment issues and has been deconstructing patriarchy for a while now, he still catches himself being so afraid of rejection from men. And I'm like, this is so funny because y'all will go out and send text to women all the time. Men have no fear, shamelessly hit on women, but to ask them to send one message to a man being like, hey, how you doing? Are you doing okay? You want to talk? They're like, it's terrifying to them. That's part of patriarchy. And then when you have daddy issues on top of that, wow, watch out. And lonely men who don't have friends are a burden on us. We pay the price of their fear of rejection from men. His friend said, yeah, he's easy to be with, but hard to get close to. I think I'm as good a friend as he's had from the old days, but he's such a loner and it makes me mad. Look at this. He comes through town and he doesn't call. This is what I'm telling y'all. Men will like literally not even know that their best friend got divorced because they don't reach out to each other. They don't talk to each other about real things. They go hunting, play games, drink together, climb together. We'll do all this stuff, but talk about real things and show up for each other and check in on each other. Why would they? Because that's what we do. Why do they need friends when we do all this for them and even schedule their play dates like his wife chose to do. And yet he does struggle to hold on to his privacy. Yes. And, being traumatized by being stalked, I would never wish being a celebrity on anybody. I would never wish going viral even on anybody. It is the worst. I can't imagine not having any privacy. I'm already very stressed out and very protective of my privacy, and I'm not famous, okay? I can't imagine that. I have been stalked, so I know what that's like. And it's harder when women are stalked because men will go out there to us more than, men don't have to worry about that as much. But he's been stalked by a lot of people. I understand why he wanted a private life. I do. I get it. I can see how that would impact his friendships, okay? This is not like, fuck Gene Hackman. This is like, look at how patriarchy is playing out in this tragic ending to their lives so that we can take the lesson and learn from it, okay? And as a Gen Xer, I grew up watching this man, okay? I think he was an amazing actor. I don't know anything about him. I just want to use this as a teachable moment. Now, this struck me just now. This article was written in 1989. For the last 5 years, he's been living quietly with a 28-year-old woman named Betsy. So this is before they got married because he dated her for 7 years, right? So that 5 years, that 28 minus 5, that's 23. Gene, wherever you are, 23-year-old, really? Now I don't like you. I'm like, how old was she when they met? I'm dying to know that. Whatever. Age gap relationships. I don't have an issue with age gap relationships unless the age gap is huge and or that woman or man, but it's usually a woman, sometimes it's a man, okay, but is usually a woman, is like in her early 20s or younger, I have a big issue with that. But look at this. So he marries this young woman who could have been a star, very talented pianist, and and now he's just hanging out in Santa Fe as a recluse, you know, doing his solitary hobbies of sketching, painting, and tooling around on his pickup trucks. I'm curious how many of those he has, because we know men's hobbies are very expensive and involve buying a bunch of crap. You know, he's got 3 kids, but like all parents, he would love to have seen more of them. Yeah, okay. Well, like a lot of boomers, not all boomers, okay? Some of y'all get so mad if I say boomer. Boomers or older. I think he's older than boomer. They're like, oh, I miss my kids, but we'll never call them. Like, what? Are you reaching out to your kids? Also, maybe it's because you weren't really there for them. I don't know. Then this journalist is like, he comes across as just adrift as anyone else, just as wounded and disappointed. It is possible to see him in the face of a lost childhood. A long apprenticeship. Oh, he had to work really hard. A tortured marriage? Fuck you, writer. God, of course a tortured marriage. Oh, a tortured marriage where he just wasn't there. Who is being tortured by that? An unsettled middle age where he then goes after a young 20-something-year-old. Okay. He's a real everyman. Yeah, he is. He is an everyman. What's wrong with every man? Again, if you're with a man who is so hell-bent on doing this and this and this, and you stand next to him while he works so hard on this thing, but you never get down to the why it is so important to him, you could end up in this situation where they hate the life that they sacrifice so much to get, and that you sacrificed even more for him to get. It seems like he was like, after a while, like not that easy to work with. He even admitted, you know, he finds himself, I'm kind of impossible. He had a really hard time being directed by other people. And again, imagine that kind of energy where like, I just want you to imagine this one last thing. A man who everything was about his career. He threw his kids and his wife under the bus to get that acknowledgement, that money, that power, that level of like proving daddy wrong and getting mom's approval and all this stuff, and proving that acting the Pasadena Playhouse wrong. All those people who thought he'd never make it, he proved he really got them. And then he finally gets the thing he wants. And not only does he hate the thing, he's hard to work with eventually because he hates the thing and resents the thing that he worked so hard for. And then he retires and he wants a private life out of the spotlight, been traumatized by being stalked, has all these issues. And now he's in a home alone with somebody where the only thing that made him happy, he no longer can do. And he doesn't have friends. And you are his everything. I can't imagine a world in which his wife, that I can't imagine Betsy have really found that fulfilling. Then again, maybe she did, but she was 23 when they moved in together. So maybe, I hate it when women lose their art because of men. And men not dealing with their entitlement and any of their trauma. This is a cautionary tale. Do not abandon your art, your career, what you've always wanted in life for any man, even a famous, successful one. Because it sounds like he became her child. And in the end, all of it was for what? He still outlived her. A woman 30 years younger than him. I'm not saying she was miserable. She may have loved her life. I'm just saying, take the lessons from this. Don't become someone's hospice wife. These men are tapeworms. They will take everything from you, and you don't even know you have a tapeworm until it's too late. Anyway, thanks for listening to this deep dive. Please follow my Patreon. That's where I make, that's the only way I can pay my bills at this point. I have lives, watch parties. I do travel, personal stories, all kinds of stuff, but it's basically a way that's the only way I'm able to keep doing this and provide for everybody is for Patreon people who are supporting me. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. I would not be able to keep doing this stuff if y'all hadn't been helping me with encouragement and all of this stuff since May. I would have quit a while ago. So thank you. Thank you. Let me know if y'all heard the comment song. This is the Alps Comet song. Look at that little pony. This is the Alps Comet song. Well, I went there to see my family, but I saw lots of animals like a horse and a pony and some goats. Yep, this is the Alps Comet song. Just got back yesterday. I have so much to share about that, but first I gotta show you some goats. And then some donkeys. Donkey, 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 donkey. I love donkeys. I love this photo of us. Anyway, look at this donkey. It's my favorite photo. Most kiss the donkey. Look at the donkey, 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 donkey. This is the Alps Comet song. And now I'm ending now. Stay tuned, y'all. Did you hear the Alps Donkey Comet song? Et voilà!